shot in these streets.
I'm just like you.
We getting locked by these caps.
I'm just like you.
We fulfill the
I'm
prophecies.
just like you.
You might be light, I might be dark.
But I'm just like you.
We kill each other over colors.
I'm just like you.
I'm in these ghettos, in these slums.
I'm just like you.
They call you nigga, call me spit.
And I'm just like you.
You was 1619, I was 1492. We getting shot in these streets.
I'm just like you.
We getting locked by these caps.
I'm just like you.
Welcome to FCN Quick News of the Day. I'm your host, Officer Eben, and in today's news we have...
One thing our lawsuit talks a lot about is that very clear lineage from slavery in the state to convict leasing and to what we've got now. And the punishment by the Department of Corrections is what our clients are challenging, because that's what amounts to involuntary servitude and slavery by the state.
After the Civil War, the 13th Amendment abolished slavery with a key caveat. Forced labor was still allowed for people convicted of a crime, and the states adopted a copycat of this federal amendment. But here's the thing. In 2022, Alabamians made a historic vote to remove this exception.
The state has a new constitution. Voters overwhelmingly agreed to make our state constitution free of racist laws and language.
However, right after the voters of the state changed the state constitution, the governor and the Department of Corrections really doubled down on the punishment for refusing to work.
So the people closed the loophole and then the governor went around to open it up again, basically.
Yeah, that's right.
Governor Kay Ivey's executive order made encouraging or causing a work stoppage a high-level violation on the same level as possession of a weapon, drug possession, and bribery. The order also cracked down on correctional incentive time, better known as
good time.
In some prison systems, good behavior is rewarded with what's known as good time. People can earn sentence reductions and get released from prison early.
And the state legislature even changed its good time law to increase that form of punishment for folks who refuse to work.
We're simply changing the amount of correctional incentive time or good time days that are offered.
Are we increasing or are we lowering it?
We are lowering them.
All of this was done on the heels of this constitutional change, and frankly, it's a brazen ignoring of the will of the voters of the state. And
All right, let's stop right there. So we're going into convict leasing. Convict leasing is a new form of slavery that this government uses to keep our people oppressed. So let's open up with Isaiah chapter 42 and verse 22.
The book of Isaiah chapter 42 and verse 22. But this is a people robbed and spoiled. They are all of them snared in holes, and they are hid in prison houses. They are for a prey, and none delivereth, for a spoil, and none saith restore.
So the scripture is saying this is a people robbed and spoiled. We are robbed and spoiled through the political system of this country, the economic system, the social system. All this is used to the disadvantage of our people and to the advantage of our oppressors. There's a book out that's authored by a woman called Michelle Alexander. The book is called The New Jim Crow. And in the book, they're going into a system that's called preservation through transformation, meaning this is a system that's constantly evolving throughout the times in order to continue the legacy of slavery going. For example, slavery was abolished, so-called abolished in 1865. They couldn't keep us in chattel slavery, so what did? They start implementing new laws to keep us in the prison system. In the article, they are bringing out the 13th Amendment. So the 13th Amendment is saying there's neither slavery or involuntary servitude unless duly convicted of a crime. So slavery is actually still legal in the United States if you've been duly convicted of a crime. So read that scripture again.
Isaiah chapter 42 and verse 22. But this is a people robbed and spoiled.
And that's how they were robbing us and spoiling us. They're bringing up good time. They were reducing good time, good behavior, so they can keep our people constantly evolved in that system of convict leasing. Read on.
They are all of them snared in holes, and they are hid in prison houses. They are for a prey, and none delivereth, for a spoil, and none saith restore.
And we are hid in the prison houses, because when we look at the statistics, which group of people disproportionately fill up the prison system? It's the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, the Israelites, according to the Bible. So this is an entire system that's set up to continue the legacy of slavery, but it's constantly evolving through time, and we're seeing one of those devices that's being used against our people. Let's go to Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2 and verse 10. Wisdom
Book
of
of
Solomon,
Wisdom
chapter
of-
2 and 10.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2, and verse 10. Let us oppress the poor righteous man. Let us not spare the widow, nor reverence the ancient gray hairs of the age.
So that's what they do to our people. They don't care if you're old. They don't care if you're young. You're a pregnant woman. You don't care if you're a young lady. Our oppressors don't give a damn about us. This same legacy of slavery, the same legacy of oppression is upon all our people, regardless of your age, your status, or your wealth in this society. Continue reading.
Let our strength be the law of justice, for that which is feeble is found to be nothing worth.
So when it says, let our strength be the law of justice, who's the our? That's Edom. That's the other nations. They create laws in place to continue to oppress our people. For example, when our people commit the same crimes, we get harsher prison sentences than other nations who commit those same crimes. For example, our people have been in this country for the past 400 or so years, since 1619 and prior to that. But who got race laws passed for them? Who got anti-race laws passed for them? The so-called Asians. So-called Asians, the Moab, Elam, Ammonites, they haven't been through half of what we've been through in this country, but they get anti-hate laws passed before us. So this is how our oppressors use their laws against us. Let's also go to Psalms chapter 64, verse 1.
The book of Psalms, chapter 64, and verse 1. Hear my voice, O God, in my prayer. Preserve my life from fear of the enemy. Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked.
So this is the prayer. We have to pray to the Lord to hide us from the secret counsels and plots of the wicked, because the wicked, they're not going to go to in your face and tell you the evil that they're planning to do. They're going to do it behind closed doors. They're going to do it through their political system. They're going to do it through their laws. They're going to do it through their GMO engineering, through their food. They're going to use different devices and plots in order to oppress God's chosen people. Continue reading.
Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity, who whet their tongue like a sword, and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words.
Read on.
That they may shoot in secret at the perfect. Suddenly do they shoot at him, and fear not.
So when it says they shoot in, may shoot in secret at the perfect. How did he do it again? Through poverty. Section 8. Do you use Section 8 where the government will give you funds, but you have to remove the man out of the household. And by you removing that man out of the household, they know those young children, those young boys, those young girls, they're not going to have that masculine figure. They're not going to have that authoritative figure in their household. So what happens to a lot of our young men? They grow up effeminate. They join gangs. They commit crimes. And then they're filling up the prison system. So this is all part of the plot that's been in place for hundreds of years to destroy our people. They know when our children grow up without a father in their household, they're more likely to end up in the prison system, and then the prison system can continue to generate billions of dollars by using our people as cheap labor. Continue reading.
They encourage themselves in an evil matter. They commune of laying snares privily. They say, who shall see them?
And they don't believe anybody notices their secret plots and persuasions that's against them. That's why they have such a tight grip over the media, over social media. When our people stand up, whether it's an entertainer, whether it's a sports figure, whenever they stand up and they speak against the oppression of our people, what happens to them? They get shut down. They get their television program taken away, like what happened to Nick Cannon. They're forced to apologize for what they do. They're paraded around and they're emasculated in front of the masses. Because why? They want to hide the evil, the secret plots that they're doing. So let's move on to Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 15. So what must we do in order to avoid these secret plots, these persuasions that our enemies are trying to put snares on us to do? Read that, Ephesians 5 and 15.
The book of Ephesians, chapter 5 and verse 15. See then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise.
So the scripture is telling we have to walk circumspectly. This is why we have God's laws. God's laws is what is our light. It's to guide us on how we're supposed to move and conduct ourselves in society. To be aware, be circumspect of the snares and traps that's set before us. God's laws tell us, marriage is honorable in all. If marriage is honorable in all, then that means I'm not gonna fornicate with my sisters. I'm not gonna take advantage of my sisters. I'm gonna have children within wedlock, and by us doing that, our children are less likely to grow up in poverty. Our children are less likely to commit crimes and end up in that prison system. Our daughters are less likely to have children out of wedlock and continue to perpetuate this system. So this is how we know how to avoid these snaps and these triggers. We need God's laws. We need to walk circumspectly according to God's laws. Mark chapter 7 and verse 21. So these are the fleshly desires that put us in this prison system. Mark chapter 7 verse 21.
The book of Mark, chapter 7 and verse 21. For from within, out of the heart of man, proceed evil thoughts, adulteries, fornications, murders.
So Christ is telling us from within the heart of man, our thoughts proceed evil thoughts. Adulteries, that's going into sex outside of marriage, fornication, murders. It all starts from your mind. If you have that spirit of hatred in your mind, you're already a murderer in God's sight. Continue reading.
Thefts, covetousness, wickedness, deceit, lasciviousness, an evil eye, blasphemy, pride, foolishness. All these evil things come from within and defile the man.
So all these evil thoughts that plague our people, that plague all of us, we have to subdue it. We have to mortify it. And when we mortify these lusts, these temptations, these desires, that's going to help us avoid getting locked up, getting caught up in the prison system. So let's move on. Romans chapter 13 and verse 1. Romans chapter 13, verse 1.
The book of Romans, chapter 13 and verse 1. Let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, for there is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God.
So the powers that be are ordained by God. So the system that we're in, God ordained this system for our punishment, for our judgment. So how do we avoid ending up in this prison system, being caught up in the convict leasing, the school to prison pipeline? We have to obey the laws of the land as long as they're not contradicting the laws of God. Meaning what? We're not stealing. We're not murdering. Not getting caught in thefts. We're not getting caught in these scams that's going on. These new scams with the Chase bank fraud scams, check cashing scams. We're not getting PPP loan scams. People are getting caught up with now 4 years later, 5 years later. We got to avoid those things so we don't end up in the prison system. And last scripture, let's get 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 13.
The book of 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 13. Submit yourselves to every ordinance of man for the Lord's sake, whether it be to the king as a supreme, or unto governors as unto them that are sent by him for the punishment of evildoers.
For the punishment of who?
For the punishment of evildoers.
So this whole system is set up for the punishment of evildoers. So how do we avoid being evildoers? We have to mortify our members, mortify our lusts, mortify our temptations, and walk circumspectly according to the laws of God. With that, I say shalom.
What is a nation?
Nation is men leading by example. Nation is family. Nation is community. Nation is children with role models. Nation is unity. nation is